My name is Derek Macpherson. I am the President and CEO of Gold79 Mines Ltd. Here with me today is Robert Johansing, our Vice President of Exploration. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the trenching program that we're about to undertake at the Tyro Main Zone, our gold chain project in Arizona. So, Rob, first question: can you describe a little bit about the objectives of this trenching program and what we're hoping to accomplish with it?
Well, thanks, Derek. As we've discussed, we have a few objectives here, but I think the primary objective is to get a better feeling for the surface geology at the intersection of the White Spar Fault and the Tyro vein, as you can see in the figure on the right, the geologic map. Our initial work done back in 2020, 2021 was to map the vein and establish continuity, some preliminary sampling, and then our original drilling. But since that time, we've had an opportunity to drill the vein in 2 programs, and we've identified broad zones of consistent grades at very shallow depths, only down to maybe 70 meters. But in 2023, our last hole of the program, owing to some structural complications I observed while we were drilling, I rotated hole 28, actually 27 and 28, but we lost 27. But hole 28 to the northeast to cross a series of veins that appear to be parallel to the White Spar Fault and not to the Tyro. And as you can see on the left, hole 28 hit some high grades. And in summary, there was at 61 to 70.1 meters, 9.1 meters of 51 grams. So that's all of it. With all of that is within an envelope of quartz stockwork with significant gold values. So what I'd like to do is get in there and open that zone up at the surface, but with trenches both parallel to hole 28 and across the veins, and also holes perpendicular to 28, which would be across the dominant Tyro trend, which is northeast. Secondly, all of my sampling has been more punctual, and that it has been focused on individual vein outcrops. And in some cases, it's not completely representative in that the vein is at the surface, the vein zone is 20 to 40 meters wide, and I'm taking 3 or 4 samples across that. So what we're going to try to do this time is cut trenches across the entire mineralized zone, and then we will come in and photograph, sketch, and sample the entire trench on with geologic definitions. And then finally, this work will help us, looking at the results, help us design the next phase of drilling, which will occur basically from the northeast end to the southwest end, but focusing in on the intersection of the White Spar and the Tyro veins, where we think that there's an opportunity for considerably higher grades.
Okay. So, obviously this trenching program is part of sort of our larger exploration plan. So, we announced in January an exploration target of 15.6 to 31.2 million tons, grading 1.5 to 2.5 grams a ton gold. Can you maybe discuss how this trenching program fits into us converting this potentially converting this exploration target into a resource?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be important if, as we approach a resource definition, that we put a upper limit on the gold mineralization, which in this case is the surface. So we need to clearly define what the widths and grades of the vein zone from the very north end, where it disappears under alluvial gravels, which is on the right side of this long section, and then back to the left or to the southwest and underneath the Tyro Hill, where the vein is exposed at the surface, and then down into the open pit, which you can see in the crosshatch. We know that this entire longitudinal section is mineralized at the surface. We have strong suggestions that it's mineralized at depth, as you can see in the drill holes from holes 13 to 16 from our first program to holes 23 to 28 from our 2023 program. And I want to point out here on the left side, our hole 28, you can see it intercepted a zone that's defined by a couple southwest dipping faults. That's the White Spars fault zone. To the left, you'll see a red stippling. That is a broad zone of mineralization that is low grade. Surface samples are in the half gram to a gram, and drilling supported that. And what we suspect there is that the Tyro vein was offset and down placed to the down drop to the left. And so what we are looking at is a zone that's higher up in the epithermal model from the White Spar fault to the left. So what we hope to have at the end of all of this is a nice continuous database showing widths and sample grades covering the entire surface trace of the Tyro vein.
All right. Now, so looking at that, maybe as we go to the next slide here, can you talk to us about the trenching program, and some of the specifics of both, kind of what we're trying to accomplish, and then the key locations of the trenching program.
You got it. Well, as you can see on this map on the right, you'll see a classic trench symbol. In the legend, it says proposed trenches. Those are our proposed sites. I've staked those out, and I'm pretty confident we can get in there. We have road access to all these areas. And so the idea is to come in there with a track-mounted excavator and clean up the trace of the trench. And then we'll come in with a pneumatic hammer and crush the rock. Then we'll come in and remove the rock and define where our samples begin and end, and begin sampling, sketching, and photographing the zone as we do it. I've tried to place trenches every 100 or so meters along the trace of the vein. Please note that there's one trench. All of the trenches are perpendicular to the general Tyro trend. But I do have in there one trench that basically follows or approximates the trace of hole 28. And that is perpendicular to a series of veins at the Tyro White Spar intersection. These veins trend generally north 30 west. So the trench will be perpendicular to those. But again, what we're trying to do is open this place up. It's a little tricky in spots, but keep in mind that we have an old slot pit there, and it's very difficult to access that. But there are places on either side. I want to note that the mining that was done in the 1980s, the open pit mining, left a significant portion of the vein out. And so up around sections 500 to 700, you'll see the slot where there's no symbol, but on either side of the slot, you'll see mineral symbol. Those are areas where a significant amount, say 10 to 30 meters of vein was not exploited by mining.
Yeah. All right. And then I guess next, Rob, we've talked about this. I've talked about this in a few interviews, but I think it's important to know sort of why now. What's the logic behind doing? We obviously have a couple of drill programs into this. I guess why trenching now?
Well, I guess probably most importantly is we're in May. The temperatures are pleasant. The mid 80s to mid 90s degree Fahrenheit. In another month, they'll be pushing north, excuse me, north of 100. And by July and August, they'll be 120. we know we want to be drilling in the fall, um, perhaps as early as mid-September, when it cools down a little bit. So this gives us time. The program should take a few weeks. This gives us time to get the data worked up, get the assays in, and be able to incorporate this information into our database and better design the drill program for next fall.
Right. And then I guess the last question is, when do we expect to start, and when should investors expect results?
Well, I'm packing today. Plan to be out there this Sunday. We'll be started on the 6th of May. The machinery will be showing up. My support will show up. So I figured the 6th, and probably about 2 weeks to get the entire job completed.
Right, and then probably, I think we've historically quoted 4 to 6 weeks for assays from those results as well, and so depending on how labs are at that time. So
Yeah,
probably
that seems
but might be
reasonable.
might be safe to say for investors, we might provide some information on what we see in the trenches, particularly on the White Spar Fault, Tyro Main Zone intersection. But actual assay results we'll be looking at probably July, August for those results, and investors can expect them
Somewhere in
then.
there, by the time we get everything together, our trenches together, maps and so forth.
Yeah,
So
that's great. And not to cut this short, but you do need to pack so you can get to work next week
yeah,
on this trenching program.
yeah.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching this little update on our most recent press release in this trenching program we're about to undertake as we pursue converting the exploration target at the Tyro Main Zone, which is 15.6 to 31.2 million tons at 1.5 to 2.5 grams a ton gold, starting at surface as we start the process of converting that exploration target into a maiden resource at this zone. If you have any questions about Gold79 or want to learn more about the project, the project or the trenching program, do not hesitate to reach out.